Second Bull Run. In history, this was a clear victory for the CSA that, nonetheless, historians point to as a turning point because the CSA didn't win hard enough. Let's see if we can do better. I'm going to do a major rework for this, including putting Cannon Commander Daniel Hill back in charge for a bit. So first, let me do the big things. Put the point into economy. Check the reputation menu. As usual, the money and men are too expensive. The Fayettevilles and Lamotts, despite being amazing, are in too small numbers to fit my style. The weird cannons are also too small of a pack for me, as are the Trejegars. In earlier missions, I'd take the Brigadier Generals, but at this point I have a large officer corps of well-trained individuals to work with, while I train up lower-tier officers in the interim. Looks like the only thing I'm grabbing from here is the Enfields. Which isn't a bad thing, mind you. It allows me to finally start amassing reputation points for the future. Since this is a grand battle, that means I have to buy now anything I don't want to disappear. I held off on buying anything for the last two stages because, now that I have politics maxed out and am spending points into economics, every stage I win, I reduce the cost of all officer and weapons purchases. So unless I desperately need something immediately, I can save money in the long run by doing my purchasing only right at the stage where the items to purchase would disappear. So, head to the barracks and pick up the General and Colonels. Head to the Armory and pick up the Parrots, 24-pounders, and Trejegars. And you know what? Let's grab the 10-pound ordnance too. I'll hold off on buying the Whitworths this time. At the moment, I have enough to equip both of my trained sniper brigades. I will eventually want a few more to give to the 3rd Scout Sniper Team, but I can hold off buying them until I get some more economics points, giving me time to field train that team a bit more. Double check the supply wagon on both 2nd and 3rd Corps to make sure they're at the 35,000 single wagon max. And now to the restructuring. This is going to take a while. Okay, where to begin? Daniel Hill is back in charge of 1st Corps, and has used his newly acquired 3rd command point to take the Defender trait. All 3 of the 3rd tier perks have their uses, but all 3 of the 3rd tier perks only affect units within the command radius of the General. As this guy is a cannon leader, and therefore designed to sit in place and exchange fire with opponents, having him be able to sit in a location and give his infantry bonus cover is a great ability. 1st Corps has 12 cannons in it. I've upped almost all the batteries to 14 guns, save for this one since I only had enough 10-pound Parrots to get him to 13. I've also swapped 1-1 mid-range team to the 10-pound ordnance cannon. Ideally, all the mid-range batteries will join the long-range ones on the enemy's flank this map, and the 10-pounders are better at long range than the Napoleons are by quite a bit. All 3 skirmish sniper teams are present. This stage has a portion where long-range snipers can have an absolute field day. There's some diminishing returns on how many of them you can pack in, but the first 2 are amazing. With any luck, the 3rd will also see some good action. For the 9 infantry brigades, I'll be bringing in 5 scrub units whose job it will be to hold the walls. I'll have a 6th unit of pseudo-scrubs led by Major General Dennison, as well as my newly re-equipped and renamed 1-2-2 mid-range team to back up the wall holders. And rounding it out, the 1st mid-range squad, who I've renamed to 1-2-1 mid-range, say that 3 times fast, and the 1-1-1 sniper squad increased to 1,500 men. The numbers in these guys' names will make a lot more sense once I'm done overloading this corps with artillery and put the infantry back in the spots they belong. 2nd Corps is going to be a no-cannon corps. This stage, like Cedar Mountain, will be a hammer and anvil approach, and 2nd Corps is the hammer. As such, they will be packing mostly infantry, and most the infantry's size will cap out at 1,500. Unit size doesn't affect a unit's forward momentum any, other than if the edges of the formation scrape against a forest or something, but I'm keeping it below 2,000 because larger formations do take longer to rotate, and they will be moving a lot, so that may be a deal breaker. This stage will also debut some cavalry for the CSA. Second Bull Run is a big siege, but once that siege is broken, there's a lot of open ground that can be used to run down retreating opponents. Let's see if I can manage to pull off the micro necessary to do that well. Note that due to a glut of 1855 model sharps and a lack of most melee options, I'm making all the cavalry skirmish type for now. Yes, there's a reason I aligned my divisions like this, don't worry. The 3rd Corps has the 3 leftover cannons in it, a few 1500 man teams, and that lone 3-star cavalry that I'm not a big fan of due to its perk choices. I'll throw them in anyway, maybe they can teach all my new cavalry some tricks. Or end up being bullet sponges for them. Either way works. Following the recent events of the Peninsula Campaign, a portion of our forces initiated a wide flanking maneuver and raided the Union supply depot at Manassas Junction. Pope's line of communications with Washington was threatened, and he had to abandon his defensive line at Rappahannock River. We withdrew a few miles to the northwest and took up a defensive position on Stony Ridge, with hope to lure Pope into a trap. The rest of our army had left Richmond almost undefended to reinforce us and attack the unsuspected Union army. 2 things before I start. First, it may seem odd that down here it says you can bring in 3 corps but are limited to 60 brigades. This is because, for whatever reason, each corps assigned down here will only bring its first 20 brigades. So don't put your best 4 brigades in slots 21 through 24 of 2nd Corps, or you'll be highly disappointed. In related news, guess what caused me to have to re-record this stage at least once. Second, just as a point of previous stage note, it should surprise no one that the first Bull Run battle overlaps with this map in this area. As it happens, another oldie is here too. Newport News is this area, and it's going to be the Day 1 site of yet another engagement between small brigade counts. Our raid to the Union's massive supply depot at Manassas Junction was a success. The huge blow to their rear dislodged the Army of Virginia from their defensive lines along the Rappahannock River. We now moved northwest, challenging them to follow us. General Pope, the new commander of the Army of Virginia, is isolated. This is a good location to set up a trap and attack him with all of our forces before he is reinforced by General McClellan. We took a big risk when we left Richmond undefended, but, as we expected, McClellan did not attempt any offensive maneuvers on the peninsula. The rest of our army will arrive tomorrow and deal a flanking attack to the unsuspecting Yankees. Currently, General Pope assembles his army and all reinforcements near Henry Hill. He will most likely withdraw to Washington to the northeast, unless we do something about it. A diversionary attack would probably convince them to stay in the area and fight. The division of Rufus King is heading to join Pope's main army through the small town of Groveton. It is time to draw their attention. We are dispatching some of our forces forward, and then we should attempt to defend Bronner's farm. General, it is advised not to risk losing many men or artillery in this engagement. Night is falling. Our main purpose is to reveal our position and lure Pope's army into attacking us tomorrow, so we need our army at the ready for this defensive battle. Day 1 of this grand battle will be very small and fairly short. There will be a pointless battle timer in the top right. The actual end of phase will be when the main clock reads 2030, as well as an objective right here. Neither the timer nor the capture point is in any way relevant to the stage's final objectives. The only reason they exist is to end the Day 1 fight early. The Union's forces are an infantry and a cannon here, more infantry coming in from these locations, and multiple skirmishers. There are 3 basic ways to do this part. One is to hide everyone in the top left of the stage, let the Union take the farm, and end this part early. That is the safe route, and perhaps a valid choice if you are trying to conserve men, say on legendary difficulty. Option 2 is to stack 5 infantry brigades over here, tell them to hold fire, and rush them into the town. The goal is to run to point-blank range of the enemy cannon and infantry units, and let them open fire, smashing them, and following that up with a charge to try and finish both units off. Definitely the cannons at least, the infantry if possible. If using this method, the enemy will take the farm not too long after the massive rush, which should minimize your casualties, but also mean that the biggest gain you will get out of this stage is 2 units downed. Also, watch for flanking hits by the enemy skirmishers, and if doing this, go ahead and despawn the supply wagons from the deployment box, as their extra ammo won't be necessary. I'll be going with option 3. 4 infantry, consisting of a mid-range team and 3 scrubberoonies. The general and a supply wagon or 2 will all start at this spot and begin the stage by rushing into the woods. Splitting off a skirmish team or 2 to cover from flanking squads is a good idea. The 5th unit will be a sniper team whose job it will be to constantly dance around this area. Their ideal goal is to try and snipe the cannon battery into oblivion, but there's a good chance they will spend most of the time spotting an enemy skirmish squad, taking a snipe at them, and retreating to avoid return fire, which is also fine. The upside to this plan is that you'll be having an enemy that is willing to come to you in your defensive cover and get mowed down wholesale for their troubles. The downside is that the fight will be protracted, resulting in more CSA casualties than either of the other options. I'm still going with that plan though, due to the highly disproportionate results I can score. Also, I will get a chance to refill my army between days, whereas the AI really doesn't, but more about that later. Also, don't be afraid to have everyone sprint everywhere. While it's true that you don't regain stamina between days, the start of day 2 will involve a lull that will let your infantry recover to basically full. You know, maybe I can bait those guys with a juicy supply wet. Yep, here they come. I didn't actually manage to bring them in range of my main line, but those side shots the sniper team is getting in made that wagon feint worth it. I'm even getting some shots on their cannons now. Proceeding to the next day. Our plan is going well. Pope took the bait and is preparing to attack us at Stony Ridge. We must hold this strong defensive position until reinforcements arrive. We expect the first forces later afternoon. I'll be going back into camp between the days here to replace the losses of the 4 brigades involved in the Day 1 fight. This will have some consequences later, but I'll describe that in more detail between days 2 and 3 when I do it again, and the consequences are going to be much more pronounced.
Sir, yes, sir!
It seems that Pope fell into our trap. He mobilizes his forces to attack. We spotted large formations of infantry advancing from this direction behind Matthews Hill. There is also enemy activity from southwards. Watch your flanks and hold your ground, General. If we lose Stony Ridge before our reinforcements arrive, our plan will fail and we will have to retreat. Given the sheer number of brigades involved in this battle, I won't be drawing a line for every one of them this time. That would take me forever, and you guys have already waited a month for this video to come out. Anyway, there are a number of fortified positions this fight in 2 major lines, here and here. They all also happen to have the game's first real decent defensive bonus at 100% cover effectiveness. So basically, anybody manning these walls is in as good a spot as if they were in a town. However, while having 2 lines allows for defense in depth in real life, in this game and this stage, I'm going to be leaving the forward line undefended. The main reason is, when the major Union assault comes at the top side of the line by the river, the Union forces will have the cover of trees and housing. By setting up at the second line here, most of the Union's meetings with my line will come as they are standing out in the open. The center of the field is where the skirmish sniper teams will be having all the fun. While While scrub infantry brigades will be manning the walls, sniper teams can press out into the areas here to try and get the range to take shots on anything and everything in this area, which, if you are on top of your micro, you can do without them taking return fire, or possibly even being spotted at all. Also, depending on what your skirmish snipers see, you might even be able to press down into the areas here to take shots of opportunity on any Unioners that started in the bottom left, but are trying to move to join the top right assault force. A few short-range cannons scattered behind the lines don't hurt either, as the game's AI is somewhat intelligent. While they will be launching a large and predictable assault at the top with about half of their army no matter what you do, the other half may join them, or it may head elsewhere depending on if and how many opposing forces the AI sees. This area right here is the stage's ace in the hole. During day 2, the only access to it is via a river ford right here. This means that anything placed in the top right corner, say like every single mid-range and long-range cannon I have, can only be approached by the Union if they walk along the riverbank here, cross the river here, and then cross the river again here. In other words, anything here is functionally immune to all Union forces other than their own artillery, which they will have an advantage against because this is an elevated hill, so, high ground. Joining the cannons will be the as of yet untrained sniper skirmish team, which should also be able to shoot at passing infantry without attracting return fire. Their main reason for being here, however, is to use the superior spotting of skirmish brigades to give the cannons targets. To further secure this spot, I will have 2 scrub infantries defending the wall, backed up by another infantry brigade, short-range cannons, and 2 more infantry brigades. One of my mid-range teams will be standing in the housing here, where they will hopefully intercept any Union infantry right as they are crossing the river, as well as a Lorenz-equipped sniper infantry brigade here, who ideally will be standing at just the right place to have any river-crossing Yankees in their range while being just outside of return fire range. Due to the nearly non-stop cannon barrage that will be going on from here during day 2, I will have one of my 1st Corps supply wagons dedicated to this area. It will sit with the cannons most of the time, only occasionally sweeping over to refill the river defenders if they run low. If you are playing the Union side of this fight, then this edge of the line, and the big old open field to the left of it, makes for a great point of assault. Thankfully, the AI is all but hard-coded to go to the top right instead. That does not mean that this place is completely vacant, however. There is a vision point right about here that the Union will occupy, allowing them to spot any infantry out to about here. It's a good idea to try and keep this area spotted, but doing so is tricky without them seeing you and moving to engage. The best shot you have is to split off a skirmish team from the southern infantry and have them stand just above the train tracks here. Keep a close eye on them. If they get spotted, back them up a bit, or else they will get attacked. Since one of the 2 1st Corps supply wagons will be dedicated to the northern cannons, the other one will start here, and essentially run back and forth along the line as needed. It will be responsible for keeping the ammo of all of the line-backing short-range cannon batteries topped off, as well as refilling those 2 sniper teams in the line center should they need it. And, anyone else too. Late in day 2, the forward elements of 2nd Corps will arrive at the south, but I'll worry about that when they show up. Unless provoked, the Union attack won't start for quite a while, several real-life minutes or almost an hour in-game, which should give you enough time to relocate all of your forces along the line. Take that time to get all your mid- and long-range cannons to the top of the map before the enemy can interdict them. As long as they've managed to cross the first river and reach the road junction here, they'll be fine. The waiting is the hardest part. You know, I keep talking about how impressive this game's AI is, and then here they are, rolling their cannons out in front of the rest of their forces. Well, may as well take advantage of it when it happens. And for some reason, even after losing a third of their unit, they turn around and come right back. They are aware that when I did the same thing in first Bull Run, it wasn't because of tactical brilliance, right? I did that to intentionally get my cannons killed. This unit's about to have a really bad time. If I actually had cavalry in First Corps, this would have been a great place to use it. Porter assaults. Pope, for some reason, stalled. He stopped attacking us. He appears to have mobilized for an all-out attack. We have also spotted a large formation, probably Porter's division, making a flanking maneuver towards our right flank. Cavalry was dispatched to cause a delaying action. If Porter succeeds, we will be in deep trouble. But here is the good news. Our first reinforcements are near and will arrive in about 2 hours. It's advised to not engage them. Have patience till tomorrow. The Federals will be exhausted and depleted by the continuous fighting, and all our reinforcements will be present and rested. So the fight continues at Stony Ridge, General. Hold your ground. Given that I can see the units moving east that used to be on the vision point, I may as well take it for my own use. Despite the warning about Porter's division coming from this side, he has a tendency to head some of his men towards the main force instead, unless you get his attention. And what remains can be dealt with by your present units. So I just want to keep an eye on him while not letting him eye me. As it turns out, I could have had the Snipesmers snatch the supply wagon here, but since I couldn't get eyes on what was behind it, I continued to go for the cannons instead. Those men are expensive. that he is standing here in the open and not spotted is just amazing. nothing really left at the bottom to deal with. I'll start sliding some of my forces to where they can be useful. And here comes the Vanguard for 2nd Corps. The game's text told me to hold off on using them, but why not use them if they gave them to me? That said, they are too far back, and there is too little time left for them to get all the way to the actual combat, unless I move them over open fields at a full sprint, which will result in them being completely tired on day 3. So instead, what I'll do with them is have them engage the scattered units at the bottom left of the map, having them move slowly and never really going any farther than the forest that these snipesomers have been operating out of for the last few hours. Also, I'm going to give the 2nd Corps supply wagon an immediate order to flee the field. This should, starting next stage, give 2nd Corps the same 2-wagon potential that 1st Corps has had since Shiloh. I know I just said I don't want to tire out 2nd Corps, and then I go and engage in a melee charge with a whole division. I just need to make sure that they have the final 10 minutes of the day 2 phase to stand still and catch their breath, and they'll be fine. And for once, you can actually use the battle timer to judge when that will be. Proceeding to the next day. We have managed to hold our position versus superior forces, and now all Confederate forces are present. It's time to counterattack and sweep the Union Army away from the battlefield. I'm going to return to the camp and refill some of my losses. Unlike after day 1, when it was only 4 brigades, this time I'm going to be replacing a ton of dudes. I want to eliminate the entire Union Army in day 3, and I wanted to guarantee I had the manpower to do that by replenishing all my brigades. This may have been a mistake. I can replace fallen officers all I want, that's fine, but when replacing soldiers between days of a battle, it resets the casualty counter of any brigade that gets even a single man added to it. I know that doing that screws up the post-battle calculation for the medicine skill, but my medicine skill is 0, so that was a non-factor. It also causes some issue with the recovery of fallen equipment after a battle is over. I should have thought about that a little bit more, but since the vast majority of my casualties were musket-equipped brigades, I wasn't that worried. Turns out, a couple thousand muskets might be cheaper than a couple thousand sniper rifles, but it still ain't cheap. What I wasn't aware of, though, until this guy informed me after I finished recording the battle, is that resetting the unit's counter also resets its stat gains for the level. The unit itself gets to keep the gains, mind you, as they are tallied up in real time, but the difference between a unit's skills at the start of a battle and at the end is how the game calculates how much experience the officer in charge of each brigade earns once the battle is over. So every brigade I added even a single man to, the officer of that brigade essentially had his EXP gain for the stage chunked. And given that I added men to almost every single brigade, that is a ton of officer experience I lost out on. I make these mistakes so that you viewers don't have to. That said, was my reinforcing a mistake? If I could do the stage again, I would probably have reinforced even knowing what I do now. I just would have been more judicious with who I reinforced. A unit like Hill's untrained sniper team, who did little attacking but lost a lot of men to artillery, I could re-up to max without much loss. On the other hand, the Snipesomers, who had racked up 2,000 kills by this point and lost just 2 guys, me replacing that probably cost Hexamer half a promotion. So at the end of the day, I would definitely have added more manpower to my roster for the upcoming events of Day 3, but I would have only done it to specific brigades. Any artillery team that was just a couple men away from losing an actual cannon, for example, or any scrub team that took a lot of hits but didn't have a ton of kills in return, say the ones on the line getting cannoned all map, and perhaps a couple other infantry teams just to have a strong backbone. I'll try and do better for the next grand battle. For now, as long as I paid in men, money, and mechsperience to try and have the force necessary to completely rout the Union on Day 3, I may as well get to getting what I got the getters for. It was a very hard fight yesterday, but we managed to hold our position against a much bigger army. Pope does not seem to understand the tactical situation. He mobilizes for another large assault on our center. Either Pope does not know that we are having more reinforcements, or he believes that we want to withdraw from the area. We are now fully ready to initiate the counterattack with our fresh corps. Your primary objective is to hold our center at Stony Ridge and find the right time to attack the Union left, securing these ridges. It is advised to wait for Porter to sacrifice more of his men into another futile frontal assault and then retaliate. Afterwards, we will sweep the area of Yankees and proceed to the east. Good luck, General. The stage intro laid out the situation pretty well. We're going to let the Union hit us in the middle again, while this southern group moves around the south in a giant encircling maneuver. Here in the middle, the artillery hill is no longer really of big importance. Now with the map having expanded, and it being about to expand again, the advantages it gave us via accessibility and total battlefield overwatch aren't nearly as potent. First Corps, after repelling the assault, will be moving up to the forward defensive wall, and after that, how much farther forward they get is going to depend on how fast 2nd and 3rd Corps are moving along. It should be noted that you don't want 1st Corps to be the hammer in this hammer and anvil play. Once the map expands part of the way through day 3, the Union won't be pinned in by the northern river anymore. The river will bend south, but right at the corner, a ford that they can cross will be present. And as with 1st Bull Run, which is the area it will be expanding into, the eastern edge of the river will have several ford points as well. Second Corps, and whatever else you brought, will start here, hopefully in good condition. Their plan is very straightforward, as in they will all be moving straight and forward. As they pass the area that 1st Corps is guarding, don't use any of 2nd Corps to plug the gaps. 1st Corps should have enough spare infantry to spread south to cover the area between the two corps, allowing all of your fresh forces to proceed east all the way to the map edge. While you have to play it by ear, the goal is to have 2nd Corps get all the way around south of them and then turn north to cut them off from the east side. Then you can go for the Mega Sandwich. As you look at this screen, remember that it is going to expand significantly. Keep having your forces move east, only dropping off individual brigades to make sure there are no holes, until you reach the uncrossable section of the river around about here. That's when you shift north. The timer is going to be tight if you are going for a total army kill here. You probably won't have enough time to form a complete encirclement before you start the final squeeze. But if you aren't encircled enough, some of them will make it out the eastern fords before you can get to them. As always with this game, the proper amount of caution versus aggression is along a razor's edge. Let's do it. I got a bit trigger happy here. I saw a cannon and I went for it. While I did manage to give a good reaming to the cannon in question, I think I caused the Union to change its plan of attack in a way I didn't want. I could have just put a scrub infantry on the defensive wall and let them take a few hits instead, giving my 2nd Corps time to move along the south. Ah well. cavalry from the rear. Why not? Ready to counterattack. Quickly, General, concentrate all your forces to secure Henry Hill. This is the last barrier of Pope's defense. From here we can control his escape route and entrap his army. And the map has expanded. The arrows that we just saw are another perfectly viable option for smacking the Union army around. Instead of trapping them against the river to the north, we can chase them to the bridge and then have some units on the other side of said bridge. If you insist on pushing with 1st Corps during the first part of Day 3, that's probably what's going to happen. But while that will cause a ton of damage to the Union, it probably won't result in a total wipe. During the push, some Union units are bound to flee and escape over the North River Ford, and if too many Union try to cross that bridge at once, the resulting mega mass will probably reach and push through whatever is covering the backside of it. These 2 cannons that started out in the tall grass here is one of those things I wish I had remembered before it happened. If I had remembered, I would have had my 4 cavalry units standing right here to run them over as soon as the map expanded. Instead, I had to run them over here first. Be ready for that in your own game. Well, my cavalry got around behind the main enemy army. A shame they aren't exactly going to stop 25,000 fleeing troops by themselves. Hurry up, everyone else. Okay, this was my fault. I gave all of 3rd Corps the order to move into this field like 2 game hours ago, so that I didn't have to sit there and micromanage them, figuring all of the rest of my army would have taken this area by now. Instead, my backup cannons just walked right into their main infantry line. Pro tip to all the viewers out there, don't do that. I mean, not unless you want to get your cannons killed, but unlike first Bull Run, these are actually mine, so yeah. Thankfully, the leader was only wounded, not killed. Yes, I failed to notice that the unit I sent this way had orders to march through the enemy army to get there, instead of up and around the river like the other group. 121 mid-range is going to lose an extra 50 guys for that misclick, but at least they'll make a cannon battery pay for it. Speaking of errors, I decided that my 4 cavalry units would be responsible for chasing this one enemy cavalry down. While that would have been true and effective from a numbers perspective, the fact is we are all riding horses, and he will end up effectively staying ahead of me most of the time. A much better plan would have been to keep the 4 cavalry grouped up and chasing down the skirmish teams, while 2 infantry brigades cornered him in the far northeast. It would have taken a while, but the results would have been much better, and I had infantry brigades to spare. I mean, this is just an overall mess. It's also why I wanted fresh troops for the final leg of this stage. If I had an extra couple game hours, I could have taken the time to focus on the Union troops in the open with cannons and long-range units, and forced them into an encirclement at a measured pace. Instead, to get them all compressed together with enough time left over to shoot them all down, I had to keep pressing across open fields myself, which was quite costly.
Oh, and I didn't spread out the second corps across the south far enough, leading to a bottleneck at the bottom left of the encirclement, and me almost getting overrun on the right side of it. Really, this is A+ generalship right here. Can I figure out a way to blame Braxton Bragg for this? I mean, it's not like his reputation could get any worse.
The stage has a hard end when the game clock reads 2040, but I didn't remember the exact time when playing the stage, so time for some melee training for an entire corps. Okay, that'll do. Really, I'm so out of practice with the cavalry, I completely screwed up their use. I mean, not as bad as the Union's been doing, but still. Also, in addition to that cavalry unit running around north, there's one other unit I have no idea where they went. That's why 112 Sniper is standing at the Henry Hill objective, to make sure some random skirmish unit doesn't snipe it at the last minute. I should have left someone at the Stony Ridge objective as well, but I got away with it. As much as I'd love to claim this casualty disparity, the fact is the numbers were screwed up when I reinforced between days. The losses column in the unit screen also only shows the final day's losses for any unit I reinforced. Most of my cannon batteries took way more than 2 casualties. The kill counts should be accurate though. 1,853 kills for the Snipesmers, that's a great total. A shame Hexamer didn't get much of it. 2nd Scout Snipers and Hill Snipers didn't do poorly either. Only 4 officer casualties, of which only 1 was a fatality, and it was one of my lower ranked guys. Other than the whole losing experience thing, that went shockingly well for my officer corps. The looted item screen is also a bit depressing, though the captured column should be accurate at least. "500-ish Lorenzes, 1,500 Palmettos, and nearly 4,000 Enfields aren't bad at all." May as well let the music finish. I lost experience, I lost guns, may as well lose a copyright claim too. A shame that the bonus for captured troops caps out at 1,000. Still, that's 5,200 more soldiers removed from the enemy army's total. 2 generals are injured, but 2 others have recovered, including almost 3-star Johnston, so that's nice. I think I did substantially better than happened to IRL. What do you think? Oh hey, the enemy army size just went up by 88,000. I mean, that's why I went for a total annihilation. I knew I couldn't stop their draft, but I could stop their veterans. Anyway, so ends Second Bull Run. A couple new side missions are now open, and then comes the, we'll say, second most famous battle of the American Civil War. But that's for a future video. For now, I need a break. This stage was draining.